Hello there. I'm Trevor, and in this episode of Somewhere in the Middle, we're going to talk about life. That's right. I want to slow down and talk about the year, talk about progress, talk about some things that have been mulling around in my head here in 2026. So join me for a reflection episode. Let's go. 2026 is moving along. It's March. First, second week in March. And, I wanted to slow down and give audience a bit of a reflection episode, some things to think about that are going on in my life, the world, etc. So buckle in as I share some things going on in my head and where my brain is at right now.
Right here, right now. There is no other place I wanna.
When I say progress, and this year's progress, there's a couple factors that kind of come into that. It's the beginning of a new year, right? But my brain is kind of revolves around the school year, right? I'm a teacher. My main profession is a sociologist, history teacher. And while I'm obviously very engaged in movies, theme parks, food, and all those other things, other facets of me, one ginormous part of me is being an educator. And I often have to reflect. We're in March. We're winding down the school year, the 25-26 school year. And there are some things that kind of come into my mind about, where my progress is at. What have my students done this year? What habits have they developed? And kind of processing that and thinking a little bit about what exactly, what are my highs and lows when it comes to what's been going on in my classroom. I'm a U.S. history teacher. I teach AP U.S. history. I teach other classes as well, like ethnic studies, world history, econ, government, all the sociologist courses.
In 1930, the Republican-controlled House of Representatives, in an effort to
A larger concept that I think is really important in my class is teaching kids to be better writers, thinkers, speakers, and listeners. So focusing on that and how am I doing that in my class is one of those things that I've been thinking about.
Think.
Plenty of students are going to develop habits in which they are going to do things to cut corners. In today's day and age, when it comes to AI and all of that stuff, I know that kids will use that and not as a tool, but more as a crutch. And it's important for me to try to address that on a regular basis with my students and kind of show them ways not to use it, or if they're going to use it, ways to use it for their benefit.
What will your first sequence of the day be?
Computer load up, celery man, please.
Yes, Paul.
But to just ask it the question that Mr. S asked in class, it's not really going to get them anywhere. And of course, there's been a lot of some changes in my classroom. We've gone old school.
I'm taking it back to the old school, cause I'm an old fool who's so cool. If you wanna get down, I'ma show you the way. Yeah.
We've gone back to paper and pencil in my classroom. I use things digitally, but I don't allow anything to be turned in digitally because, I know how kids can copy and paste and abuse things. So it is what it is when it comes to that. As far as my classroom goes, I do think my controlled environment, the environment that I create for my students, is a good one. I feel a majority of my students come into this space and feel welcomed, appreciated, and there's affirmation for them here. They feel like they matter, right? And I think that's a really important space in schools, is that when you think about what a kid goes through on a daily basis, even like what I go through on a daily basis, we have so many other factors that weigh into our lives. And I really try to think from a perspective that to get off my high horse.
You wouldn't mind getting down from your horse.
Recognize that like my room is only 50 minutes of their life for that day. And I need to kind of adjust to that on what I teach, what I do, how I engage, and then where there's leeway with all of that. Again, as I get to the end of a school year, I often reflect on how well are my students soaking in this material? How much better are they getting at their writing, their speaking, and their listening? And this year is interesting. Yeah, every year is different. I feel like I have a lot of really good writing going on. Some groups speak way more than others, and that's a interesting, or a kind of a frustrating space to be in, is when I can't figure out a perfect method to get kids to talk.
Did it work? Anyone? Anyone know the effects? It did not work, and the United States sank deep.
That's just not a thing. Every dynamic is a little bit different, and I kind of, you as an educator, you deal with that on a regular basis, year in, year out. For the 20 years that I've been teaching, there's never been one way that it always works as far as talking. Speaking of that, I think motivation is something to talk about here for a minute. Motivation's crazy important in our lives. What are you motivated to do? What are you motivated to on a daily basis? How do you get that motivation going? And, again, in March of the school year, it's winding down. Finding that motivation at times might be difficult. And one thing that kind of comes to my mind right now, or something that I've been putting myself back into the concept of and thinking a little bit more about, is being present, right? Being present in every moment. Stop thinking about the future, stop thinking about the past, but being present in the moment now.
Dust. Win. Dude.
And how that benefits me, but how that also benefits the people around me. Not just myself, but the people around me. So being more present in myself and in each moment is a huge thing. One piece of that has been, or a reminder that I've been using recently to kind of help me is getting back into an author that I read years and years and years ago, but kind of bringing that back. This author is Thích Nhất Hạnh, right? And this is just one book that I'm reading right now to, again, think of being mindful every day and being present in that, each day, as the highs and lows that we go through, the things that work in our lives versus the things that grate in our lives, the things that take us down. All of those play a factor. And as someone who's getting older and closer to 50, these things get heavier and heavier, and they weigh on your mentality, yourself.
Whoa, this is heavy. There's that word again, heavy. Why are things so heavy in the future? Is there a problem with the Earth's gravitational?
Again, Thích is a great read to help me, in that sense, find that peace on a regular basis in my daily life, right? To make sure that I find myself thinking about the right stuff versus, again, if you worry about the past or the future, you're not in the present. You're not ready for the present. And I think that's an important aspect for all of us to think of, whatever stage of life you're in. Focus on now.
I was alive and I waited for this right here, right now.
I mean, yeah, the future is important and all those things. Those aren't things to ignore. But be present, right? Be present. Another thing to kind of address or bring up that's fresh on my mind, that's, been going on, been heavy on my mind. I did an episode and talked a little bit about it. The simplest way to put it is Adam the Woo, his celebration of life just passed over the weekend. Jessica and I had intentions of going to the event, but once we got close to the event, I couldn't bring myself to go for a couple of reasons. The first reason was my brain didn't want to go and be mourning in front of a big group of people. I know that it's not supposed to be. It was supposed to be a celebration of life, happiness and laughs and whatnot. But I don't know that my brain could have done that. Also, too, there's a bit of like YouTube versus reality. And so like there would have been a lot of people there that are part of Adam's lives, and my brain didn't want to go and be confused, in the sense of like my brain would be like, I want to meet them. I want to get a picture with Carpetbagger, or I want to get a picture with Exploring Ryan, or any of Adam's friends, and feel like a connection with them because of the connection I had with Adam. And I didn't feel like that was the space to do it. Maybe it was, but my brain kept saying, this is not the space. We don't need to do that. And I don't want to be there and confuse my brain of those two issues. So Jessica and I watched at home. It was a wonderful event. I felt that celebration of life really, really was well put together. Standout speeches by Tom Wilson. Biff, right? And Adam's dad. Just absolutely epic speeches by both of them. Both really gave us what I found so important about their message was that they left us with a legacy. They showed us what Adam did and talked about his channeling that for others, right? Jim talked about the fact that he wanted his son to be a preacher, and obviously Adam was not that. But Adam did the Lord's work through his YouTube channel, through his circle of goodness, through all those positive things that he brought up. That celebration of life has been weighing heavily on me in the sense that Adam and I are close in age, health. I'm a heart attack survivor. The risk that I've had a heart attack, it wasn't a life-ending one. The heart attack that I had was able to change my life, change ways so that I'm gonna be around longer. But that means it doesn't stick around in the back of my head. So that's where the reminder of the presence, right? Being peaceful, mindful of where I'm at and present in the moment, and not thinking about the future, but always being there. And again, those things weigh on me right now. That celebration of life made me think a lot more about Adam in ways that I hadn't. I don't know that I'm ready. I spent a long time, as many of us did, watching Adam on his channel, and I felt connected to him. As Jim said in his speech, that most of us would spend 30 minutes to 45 minutes a day watching this guy. Oh, that's 5 hours or more a week we spent with Adam. So losing him feels like a tremendous loss, and that celebration of life really reminded me how much I miss him and how much pain there is that I don't get to watch new episodes with Adam. I don't get to see him travel and do the things he wanted to do. Now, again, we got to learn how to accept that, be present, and move on. So those are some things that I need to do myself in order to move forward. I think one of the hardest pieces of this, especially when it comes to Adam and dealing with that, is the fact that he was taken from us so young. And many of the people at the celebration of life really talked about the fact that he lived a full life. And I think that's an important aspect for people like me that are struggling to essentially grasp the suffering, the pain that he's gone, and the reality that he's gone. My wife, Jessica, mentioned she had watched Carpetbagger's episode kind of following the celebration of life. And there was a sense of like, now what, right? Like, we've done the celebration of life, and now what? Adam's still not here. What are we supposed to do? And again, watching that celebration of life for me kind of took me back into those emotions. And probably, to being honest with you and myself right now, I need to confront this. I need to deal with it. I need to get over the fact that I miss him so much. Many of us, of course, right now are suffering in the sense that we lost Adam. We lost a friend that we watch daily on YouTube, and we got to deal with that, right? Some things to kind of deal with that is practice techniques of acceptance, right? 1, we need to have mindful breathing. 2, walking meditation. Connecting to the present moments, to ourselves, thinking about that, I think, are important. Listening and loving speech, right? Hearing others with empathy, speaking with them in that mentality. As Adam always talked about, that circle of goodness, keep that going, right? And as well, we need contemplation of our impermanence, right? We got to think about death and become okay with it. I think that's a part of this that I'm struggling with, is that at my age, I'm closer to, I don't want to say closer to things that make me more fearful. This hasn't been the most happy information as we've talked about this today, but I don't know that that's bad. Happy. Not every episode's got to be a walk or a trip at Disneyland. Not every episode's got to be a review of a movie. Not every episode needs to be food. A part of my life and a part of who I am is dealing with and confronting these emotions. I have a few things that I feel like we should address in the sense that, dealt with some difficult issues. How do I approach this moving forward, right? A practical practices for coping, right? We've lost Adam. For some of us, greater to lesser extents, right? So some things, mindful remembrance. Be mindful of who Adam was, what he gave us, the gift that he gave us, right? We may want to spend quiet moments reflecting on ourselves, talking with others, and again, reflecting on that. And, in some instances, I didn't allow myself to do this and wasn't ready for that at the celebration of life. So I didn't go, and that's okay. We all cope and deal with things in different ways, but again, mindful remembrance is an important piece here. Second, meditation or prayer. Deal with your grief. Sit with it. Don't ignore it. Allow it to be there. Stay focused, stay calm, and deal with that grief. Losing Adam is a traumatic aspect. He was an important figure in our life. Losing anybody, this doesn't have to be about Adam. This can be about other people too. But again, it's okay to spend time in that grief, right? Third, acts of love. Do something that benefits their memory. Again, the celebration of life was a great example. A lot of you guys were there celebrating his life, and parts of me are jealous, parts of me are okay with that I wasn't there, right? Death is part of life, and we can't ignore that. We have to we have to recognize that that's there, and it's a natural transformation. We're lucky that we got as much time as we did with Adam on video. That minis for generations now, for as long as that channel's there, people can go back and watch that and find the same circle of goodness that we found in it, the enjoyment and time that he gave us, right? It truly is a special message that he gave us. One other thing to really talk about that is that connectedness, the inner being of us. In one way of saying this in a simpler way is, you guys, if you've seen Coco,
Know that I'm with you the only way that I can be.
people live on through our memories, and that's what we can't let go. The good that Adam pressed with us, the things that he taught us. And, circling this into some of the other things that I've talked about today and thinking about as a school year and where my students are at and all that, in that same sense, I know that there are things that are going to stand out and kids are going to take away from their time with me in my classroom. I spend 10 months with these students in my class, and at a certain point, not everything's going to stick, but certain things stick. And just in that same sense with Adam and his vlogs, not every episode sticks, but there are certain things that stood out to us. What he gave us, the compassion he showed for other people, the friendships that he gave to so many people, and the people that he created friendships with without even meeting them, right? Like a person like myself who's never met the man, I felt so connected to him. It's just something to keep in mind, that we are all connected, and kind of finding that empathy for that in our own humanity. Yeah, I'm going to say thank you very much for spending some time with me in this episode as I slowed down and shared some of my personal thoughts. I hope you found this insightful. I hope you found this engaging, and I hope you got something out of it for yourself. If you're struggling, if you're coping, and at some point you are dealing with loss as well, come back to these ideas. We have to be mindful and be present in what we're going through. All right. Thanks again for watching this episode. I really appreciate your time and effort, and we'll see you in the next episode. Until then, auf Wiedersehen.